And this year I went on a mission trip for about 2 weeks to Manaus, Brazil. Getting there, I left on a Wednesday and drove to Helena, which is where the majority of the missions team was coming out of. And I drove there Wednesday night, spent the night with a friend I know from church camp and his mom who was going on the trip with me, and got up at 4:30, I think, in the morning the next day, and we went to the Helena airport. We had our flight went out, I think, at 6:30, and from there we flew to Salt Lake, and then from Salt Lake to Atlanta, and then Atlanta to Brasilia, which is in probably the southern part of Brazil, and it's more towards the coast, and that's the capital of Brazil. And then from there, we had to fly 3 hours back up Brazil and in to Manaus, which is the capital of the Amazonas, which is almost like our states, kind of. This is all of our stuff after getting off the plane in Manaus. This is the pastor from the church we were connected with in Brazil, the Methodist church there. That's his truck, and we kind of just had to throw all of our bags on it, and we had a big 15-passenger bus that we kind of rode around in, which I guess my mom compared it almost to like driving, my mom and dad compared it to like driving around in Mexico. Very tiny streets and lots of cars and lots of people and motorcycles everywhere, and it was crazy traffic, so that was, not too fun in a 15-passenger bus all the time. But that's our truck and all of our stuff. This is our missions team. I wish I had that. Can I still use the laser pointer?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
You have to turn it on.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So this is obviously me. This is Dr. Skillman. He was our doctor for the trip. He has been going down there since the 70s, and so he knows just a ton of people down there. He's connected with the Methodist church down there, and he has a family that he stays with. He's known the woman for, I want to say, about 15 years, and he just stays with her and her husband and their 2 children, which I got to meet them all, and they have the cutest daughter in the entire world. She's, I think, 4, and I mean, she doesn't speak English at all. The language barrier is pretty hard, or they're not speaking a word of Portuguese, but she just lights up the room with her smile, and she's one of those people that smiles with her eyes too. Just her whole face just lights up. And they have a little baby boy, Anderson, who is like a little, he kind of looks like the Michelin Man. He's like super chubby and just adorable and just kind of really happy and easygoing. And so that's who he stays with. He was down there this year for 90 days, which, is hard. He loses like a fourth of his income. He's away from his wife for 90 days and his kids. He didn't get to see his son off to college, but he's doing amazing work over there, spending all that time over there. This is his wife, Lori, and I stayed with them when I was in Helena, and I know their son very well. This is Augusto, the pastor from the church, and then Lara, Kara, Abby, and Leah are all nurses. Abby's still in school, but the rest of them are all nurses. And then the rest of us are kind of just, we have sort of odd jobs, or, I'm a student. There's anywhere from, me, who's youngest at 18, a couple, 20 to 25-year-olds, and then a lot of them were actually in their 60s and 70s. We had 2 men that were in their 70s with us. One of them actually turned 70 on a boat. So just a really kind of odd group of people all working together. So this was, I spent 2.5, 3 days on the boat getting to our first village. And so these are just kind of pictures along the Amazon River. These are where people live, and the water is, right up there in the winter, so the water is fairly high at this point. This is a church that we saw on the way. They will pull their little canoes right up to it and tie it on, and they don't get out and walk in the water. They will step across the canoes, which their balance is amazing. I tried it once and almost fell in. I don't have very two of the villages we went to. The first one, we had a connection through, their names were Deborah and Gustavo. And Deborah's grandmother used to live in this village. And she told us kind of the history on the way there. It was kind of hard to get because Deborah only speaks Portuguese. And so Dr. Skillman having to try and translate that back to us was kind of hard. But she spent probably half an hour telling us the history of this village. But basically what happened with their indigenous Brazilian village, they had their own language, they just did their own thing, and then the white people came in and kind of took over, and so they had to learn Portuguese, and they kind of lost a bit of their traditions, but, and then, you know, they went away and kind of still do their own thing now, but it's a little more modernized, I guess. So this is, I'm going to try to use this, sorry. These are just pictures from the village. This is their school, and we decided this is just a massive canoe that just sits there, and we decided to call that their tour boat. I don't think it actually moves. I think they just have it sitting there, but it's huge. And this is kind of like a long, it goes probably a little bit farther, probably out to these trees, and then it curves around, and then they have like their high school, which the high schoolers go to school at night after they've worked all day. And then it goes a little bit farther this way. So these are some of the kids I got to meet. We spent 2 days in this first village, and I got to spend those 2 days hanging out with the kids. We had huge duffel bags, probably I think 4 of them, just massive duffel bags filled with coloring books and markers and toys, and they really like pipe cleaners. We were making them headbands for the girls and like little glasses for the guys, and they loved them. But see, these are some of the kids I met. Obviously the language barrier was kind of hard at first, me not knowing anything in Portuguese, and they don't know anything in English, so that was kind of hard, but they're just like American kids, you don't have to speak their language to interact with them. So these are just pictures from the first day when we hang out with the kids. The moms came and kind of swooped in and took over, and there was just me and one other girl trying to, like 30 kids and a bunch of moms trying to just, okay, like, calm down. And I mean, not knowing Portuguese, it was kind of hard. The little girls loved the headbands we made them. So this story is kind of a little, I don't know, graphic, I guess. We went, after the first night, they did kind of this ceremony for us. A couple of them dressed in their native outfits, and they danced for us, and they taught us how to dance. And the chief, which all the chiefs on these villages that we went to, they're all women, which was really cool. The first chief was super nice. She was like really short and just tiny, and maybe like mid-40s. And she would just, I didn't know anything she was saying to me, but she'd come up and hug on you and kiss on you, and she was just the cutest thing. And I don't have any pictures from the ceremony just because my camera for some reason wasn't working that night. But they did dances for us and talked for us and prayed and sang. And then it's kind of tradition, they give you tapioca, like just not in a pudding, but just the little balls, which are actually kind of really gross. They don't really taste like much. And farinha, which is this root that they grind up, and it's all over Brazil, everywhere you go. And they grind it up and use it kind of, they just spread it over things, and it doesn't taste like much, it just kind of adds like texture to it. So they had 2 bowls of that, and you have to like take little handfuls of it and eat it in front of them, and it's dry and kind of gross, but that's their way of kind of saying thank you. And then they tried to teach all of us girls to dance, and it ended badly, and they ended up making fun of us for the rest of the time we were there, but it was fun. And then afterwards, we went jacare hunting, which they call alligator jacare in Brazil. That's their nickname for them. And so we didn't go out and actually hunt them because it's illegal to kill in Brazil. We went out and like looked for them, and my group found one. It was probably like this big. I mean, not big at all, but we came back, and the villagers had actually killed this one. And we thought the way it was kind of perceived to us was it was in the village, like it for its meat. And they actually brought it out that next morning, kind of in front of everybody, which made me really uncomfortable and a couple of the other people on the trip. And they actually kept it alive all night to keep the meat fresher. And then proceeded in front of everybody who was there for, our medical clinic, all these kids. I was right there with all these kids watching it, and I understand it's their tradition, but for me it was really uncomfortable to watch them. And they, cut its head off and its tail off while it's still alive. And for me, that didn't really appeal to me. I wasn't too happy about that. I understand that's their tradition and that's their culture, but it was kind of hard for me. And they ended up giving the cooks on our boat some of the meat. I think it was probably the tail meat. And they cooked it up for us that night, and I kindly declined because after watching that was really hard for me. But that's their culture and that's what they do, so. This is the second village. We only spent one day here, and I did fluoride treatments with the kids, which was a lot of fun. A lot of them, they don't brush their teeth there, and the water is fairly acidic. And so I was seeing, 4-year-olds with rotted out teeth, which was hard. But it was kind of you either have really bad teeth, or there was some people that if they started brushing right now, they could save them. And so we did hand out toothbrushes, toothpaste, and did all these fluoride treatments for them and taught them how to brush their teeth, which was really cool. And I guess this is kind of interesting. I'll tell you about this. So, most Brazilians have dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes. Well, this little boy in this village, first blonde kid we saw, and he has darker skin and darker eyes, but he just is totally blonde. Well, we were asking Dr. Skillman, because we were seeing girls and boys with almost blonde streaks in their hair, and we were wondering, my first reaction was, how did they get highlights all the way out here? You just don't really think about it. But it's actually malnutrition. Malnutrition will turn their hair blonde, and so you'd see kids with streaks of it. Well, we got to this village, and we were seeing a couple kids which is their whole head was blonde, and we were just kind of confused. You wouldn't think that, it would be that much. But we asked one of our translators, Bruna, and her answer was, it's the make of the people. So some of them, but it wasn't malnutrition, it was just the make of the people, I guess. This is where we had the medical staff, the 2 doctors and our nurses, and checking up on people in the church. And then this was kind of an open common area where we had the eyeglasses, the fluoride treatments, and then the kids stuff. These are some of the people that I met in this village. This little boy, amazing little boy. He's 3, and his name, I believe, was Juan, and he was born like this. This is how he was born. And the doctor told his mom that it would actually be a simple fix. It'd be an easy fix. But for them, they're probably 30, 40 hours in our boat, which is, a big boat, and they're taking canoes, so way longer, to Manaus where they could get the surgery done. And the families, you always have to have a parent with you in the hospitals. So for them, A, couldn't afford it, and B, couldn't get there. It would be a simple fix. But hanging out with him, he's an amazing kid, and he's so optimistic despite his situation. He runs around, and he obviously gets tired really easily, and will just sit down. If he gets tired, it's okay, he'll just sit down. I kicked a soccer ball around with him for probably 30 minutes, and he's just an amazing kid. The fact that he, has all this optimism despite his disability. So we actually were talking to Dr. Skillman, and they happened to know a surgeon back in Helena, and decided to try and see what they could do to bring her down to have her do the surgery. So that's being worked on. Oh, that's not the end of the slideshow. Oh no. Oh no. I don't different places.